Hello, everyone. Welcome to the network. Welcome to the Two Dads edition.
Wait, that's not it.
Start again.
Two Dads, Gen X edition. That's a great beginning.
Hey, welcome to Two Dads Gen X edition. I am Dawson.
And I am James.
And we would like to invite you to join us on YouTube to see our beautiful faces, because now you can.
Sure. We'll go with that.
I'm a solid 4. He's a solid 2. Turn the lights off. We're a solid 10.
Oh, yeah. 5 and 5 is 10, right?
Let's Two Dads this stuff.
So, hey, yeah, welcome back as we continue the topic that we've been discussing about expectations. And yeah, we're going to keep going because this is a good one.
Well, yeah, and I think we had our little rant hour.
About Disney.
Yeah, Disney. And, no, I think the sooner you realize that life's not fair, that's one thing I always try to teach my kids, that life is what you make it. It's never going to be fair. It's never going to be even. Some people have better advantages than you. Some people won't have better advantages from you.
Yeah.
Every morning when I pray, I thank Heavenly Father for having a home, having a job, having, a family and kids. And I think, the one thing I've tried to teach them is to manage your expectations.
Well, like my kids, one of the things that they've talked about is they don't know if they're going to be able to buy a house. They don't know if they're going to be able to have, they look at like the life that I gave them, that I provided for them. And it's been a normal life, nothing extravagant or anything like that, because it's an average house. I don't have new cars or anything like that. I'm fixing my cars, stuff like that. But they look at that, and I'm, 47 years old, almost 48. And as they're starting out, and I did this too, you look at what you grew up in and you expect to be able to maintain that in your life. How do you create that or get better than that? And so when you look at like the housing prices that have just shot up, the average home is what, $350,000, $400,000 now?
Yeah. Intro home,
yeah.
It's like, that's not falling apart around you. And even then it's falling apart around you.
But see, that's the managing the expectation part, because I think one of the big problems that has happened is that, the jobs are primarily in the cities. Traditionally, that's how it's always kind of been throughout history. But the homes that are near where your job is are the expensive homes. Yeah. And so when I've talked to my kids about like being able to buy their first house, I tell them it's not going to be a big house. It's not going to be in a nice neighborhood, like a suburbia kind of thing. That's rare to start out that way. You build to that. Yeah. And so and they talk about back in the 50s after World War II, where people were like, oh, a house was only like $17,000. Yeah, they were also building their own homes.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny how construction in America, homes are made to fall apart.
They really are.
I mean, I was actually, where was I at? I was going through some threads. Or no, I was actually looking up how to, something for my house. I don't remember what it was. But it was funny. I went down
one of the many problems.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, something I was doing. But I was going down the rabbit hole and basically got on a page of a guy in England, and he's basically like, dude, you guys, American homes are made to fall apart. He goes, you go south, you get some of these homes, it's all stone, stucco. Stucco falls off, you just repatch it. Here, it's like you got wood rot, termites, tornadoes. I go, we're the only fucking country that has every major weather.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
We're the only one.
Hurricanes, tornadoes, drought, fire.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw that stat, I was like, holy crap. And they're like, I'm amazed that this country even got developed because of all the disasters that actually happened here.
It is the sheer determination and ignorance of like challenges of the American people, because we're like, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And it's still doing that. And it's so funny because it's like, and one of my kids asked me, it's like, I know I'm not supposed to ask you this, but like, how much did you pay for your house? And they're like, holy crap. And I was like, yeah, a starter home back in the 90s, when really 2000s.
$100,000.
We paid $170.
Yeah.
For a 3-bedroom house.
My first house was $130,000.
Yeah. And it was new build, all that stuff. Okay. And I was one of those kind of people that like, hey, let's do a brand new house. Let's build a new home. basic, and we can upgrade to better quality as
Right.
we make more money.
Right.
And that was my mindset. You know, my mindset was build small, make it nice.
Yeah.
It's like, it was crazy is through my marriage, we had that first home we built, and then the second home, you know, the expectations of, unfortunately, that was put in her was, you need to show how much money you have.
Right.
And
Right.
really her only goal is, I want more time with my kids. I just want to move closer to my work.
Sure.
And then that will give me more freedom to come home and be with the kids and stuff like that. So that's why I was like, okay, fine, we can build this $1 million house.
Okay, fine. I guess we can have a $1
I
million
guess we can
home.
But then I fell in the trap of, well, fuck it, we're making it nice.
Yeah.
Let's just make it nice, you know, and upgraded everything, designed a bar myself that got second place in home bar designs. Didn't get any money for it,
But you got the accolades.
no, I didn't even get those. I just
well.
happened to see it in a magazine. I go, that's my fucking bar. What the hell?
Yeah.
You know, the company that built my house submitted it and they got $200,000 for it. And I called them up. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, well, you didn't build it. The carpenter built it. I'm like, it literally says best bar design.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where I think as a kid, and that's kind of where I want to go with this, as a teenager, what were your expectations of life?
So my expectations have evolved over the years, because when I was a teenager, I wanted a Lamborghini Diablo, and I was going to live in a 6,000 square foot house, you know, all this stuff, right? But I also grew up in a wealthier area where there were bigger homes and all that kind of stuff. And I've said it, I've talked about it on the podcast before, where it's like there were 10 kids in the house. So it was a big house, but it was a full house, right? Yeah. But that was what I grew up with was, you know, formal entry, formal dining room. You had you had a living room and a family room, and you had bedrooms and bathrooms and basement and all this. That's what I grew up with. Yeah. And then moving here to the Midwest, then especially as I became an adult, it's like, I can't afford any of this shit.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's the expectation of the kind of life that I wanted. I realized I didn't make the money for it. So it shifted to, I just want to provide the best that I can for my kids. But we also did, I mean, there was a Christmas that my first wife and I did for the kids where it was like $45 that we spent that year for Christmas, because everything was handmade or homemade or whatever. We didn't buy much of anything. There was a neighbor down the street that was getting rid of one of those bunk beds that's made out of 2x6s.
Yeah.
You know, from like the 70s.
Yeah.
Remember those? So I took the wood and I disassembled it, and then I made like a rocking horse.
Oh, cool.
That out of the wood with like my Sawzall. And so it would rock and be like, because it wasn't a nice smooth curve. But the kids loved it. They loved it. I mean, I took plywood and I bought some fabric, and then I took the stuffing out of pillows, old pillows, and I made these little chairs like these, but their size. They thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah. And
so the expectation wasn't like, oh, I've got to shower my kids with all these gifts. They're kids. They just want something that they can be excited about. They don't care how much money it is. And really it's like, you know, these parents who are like, oh, my kids have to have the latest this, or they have to have that, or they have, you know, a 2-year-old doesn't remember shit from their birthday or from Christmas.
Well, and you're setting yourself up.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, you're not managing your kids' expectations, because you're giving them too much. And so they think that's normal. And so going back to that socialistic bubble, you're creating your home. You're creating the environment that has the expectations, that sets the expectations and manages the expectations. We grew up poor, but my mom did so well managing the expectations.
Yeah.
Get emotional.
Dawson's
I know.
crying. No, it's all good. It's good, man. It's good.
No, but it's like a proud cry. Like how proud of my mom I am and what she did. And, you know, my dad leaving when I was 5, it changed my whole concept of the world.
Yeah.
And it was it was hard not having a dad growing up. And as a kid, my expectation was that I would have a mom and dad, that I would be loved by both, and I'd be treated just with love and kindness, and I'd be provided for. And I think what most kids forget, that being fed, being clothed, just creating happiness, is your parents managing expectations.
Yeah.
Because they're providing. And the reason I'm getting teary-eyed is because when I filed for divorce, my main goal, my whole life, my expectation was, okay, I want to have a home where I don't have to worry about bills. I think my only desire, not when I didn't have a dad, I watched my mom struggle working so much and provide, and he was kind of there but not really, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It did shift to, okay, I don't want my kids to have this life. I don't want my kids to ever not know what it's like to not have a dad unless I die. And that became kind of my whole fucking goal in life, was to be the dad I never had.
Right.
Okay. So, that first 10 years, that's all I focused on. Like, I didn't care about my career. I shotgunned my career. I wanted to be an architect, but I did what most men do. They put the woman first. They sideline their career because they didn't want to lose the woman, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I shouldn't say most men. A lot of men do that.
A lot of men do that.
Yeah. I think women do it too. Like they put their what they want on hold, but a lot of times I don't think they know what they want, kind of thing. And so the reason I didn't do architecture was I didn't want to put that financial burden on my mom. And so it was hard at first, because it was just like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What am I going to fucking do with my life? Kind of thing. And then I got the job at the Buckle, and I started making really good money, and I started helping my mom. And then that's when I met my ex. And she had all these dreams of achieving all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I want her to be happy. I want her to be able to achieve what she wants. And if I can support that, and eventually we get to our lifestyles comfortable,
you work towards the goals together.
We can start having kids, and then I can work on what I want,
Yeah.
is to be a good dad. And what's crazy is, as we grew and started having kids, and we grew apart, I realized the other expectation was the family I never had. And what I wanted, I expected that we would, fight for each other. I expected we'd do date nights. I expected we'd do all this stuff. And I wasn't managing my expectations because I was expecting her to be a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I failed as a husband and as a spouse, is I was expecting what I didn't. I wanted what I never had, and I think I was expecting too much of that because I didn't manage my expectations. And how many times can I say expectations?
Probably 3 more.
Expectations.
17 more times.
Expectations.
Jason's getting them in there for you.
So the gut-wrenching part for me was, my only goal was to, it's like, okay, I want a family. I want a family with someone that sees me, wants me. And so as her career did really well, and my kids were getting older to the point, like, they're not going to need me as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved respiratory. I loved it. And ironically, I don't want to say to fault of her, but because the mindset got to where you're not a man if you don't make a shit ton of money.
Right.
And so that's when we talked about that in role reversal episode, that the trap you fall in when you flip roles is, one, they're deprived of being a mom, like a true mom,
Yeah.
and possibly doesn't make as much. So if you have a spouse that values money over family, then that spouse is never going to be good enough. No matter what they do is never going to be good enough. What they bring to the table is not going to be good enough. And I definitely think she learned and grew from that. We both learned from it and realized that, oh shit, we just weren't good for each other in general. It really didn't, man. Like everything in between wasn't a fault of hers or mine. It was kind of a fault of both of ours, but we really shouldn't have been there in the first place. And so I think I get torn up is I felt like, okay, I failed at the first expectation. I failed, and I say failed loosely. I don't think I actually failed. It didn't go the way I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I had to really take a step back and go, okay, what was my expectations of that? Did I have too high of expectations? Were they realistic expectations? And so the goal I try to teach my kids is reach for the stars, but expect the ceiling. Expect to hit your head on the ceiling, you know, kind of thing. And I don't mean not to reach for it, because there's some people that go, well, why reach for the stars if you can never get to them?
Excuse me. Jeez.
It's like, you're never going to get to them if you don't try to reach for them.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one of the things that it makes me think about too is like my first marriage, same thing, where it's like, you know, went into it with all these ideas, with all these dreams, with all these goals. We talked through, you know, about what kind of life we wanted to create, that kind of thing. And one of the reasons why I continued the marriage after I was cheated on when I was in basic training was because I was trying to create a life for my kids. And so it was like, it wasn't just about the betrayal and the hurt, all that kind of stuff. It was about trying to create a life for my kids. And so that was big time motivation for me to forgive and move forward and to create this life. Well, after, you know, 6 more years, basically, where then she asked for the divorce, I was willing, like initially we were trying to do the divorce ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's expensive and so we were cohabitating, all this other stuff. And I was planning on basically paying like $3,000, $3,400 a month in child support and alimony. My motivation was making sure that my kids had, you know, we just built a house. And so it's like that they maintain the house, that they maintain the lifestyle, not lifestyle like extravagantly, but they have enough, right? Yeah. Bills are paid. Thankfully, I made enough to where that's something that I could have provided, and it was Georgia, and so cost of living there was lower, and so I would still be able to live, but, you know, modestly. And then when shit hit the fan, and I ended up, you know, getting custody, my focus became stability, making sure my kids knew they were loved, and like you said, managing expectations.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, life is not going to be easy. You have to work. You have to sacrifice. And I was in school at the time, so they got to see me make the sacrifices that I needed to so that I could, you know, graduate and get the master's, get into a career, that kind of stuff. And so as that is translated into them becoming adults, like when they were in high school and you know, some of them went to college, some of them didn't, but it was like, you work hard, you sacrifice. You put in the time, you put in the effort, so that you can tell, whether anybody else believes you or not, you earned this.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's very important, is to have that value of like, I earned this because I sacrificed, because I worked hard, not like, oh, it's mine, I'm prideful, you know, no, just the I worked hard. And so if anybody else complains about where I am, what I got to, you don't know what I went through to get to it.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just
Jason?
wondering, like, I'm listening to you guys and I'm wondering, what is your expectation when it comes to love? Because you each said, yes, love, your expectations of love for your kids.
Right. Well, and so like with my kids, one of the things that we talked about, two of my daughters were home, this was a few months back, and I asked the question, is like, why is it always the nice guys finish last? Why do the assholes always get the girl? You know, why are there girls like, you know, great girls, beautiful girls, successful, intelligent, all this stuff? Why do they keep on going for assholes? And they're like, they don't go for assholes, you know, because they have great guys, really nice guys, good guys that are, you know, they're wonderful. that, guys that honestly, and if they listen to this, I didn't say this, I would not mind both of them calling them son-in-laws.
Oh,
And that's a huge compliment for me because I'm a dick. No, I'm just kidding. No, and so I pointed out to him, I said, what's the difference between you girls and most girls out there? And not in a prideful way, but I said, you were raised by me. I wasn't this dick of a dad. I was involved. I taught you well. I raised you well. I gave you good values, all these other things, so that the men that you went to look for were a reflection of how you were raised. And that made a difference, right? And so when it comes to the expectation of love, I wanted to create, and I'd hoped to create in marriage, the example to them of what to look for in their own lives.
in marriage, yeah.
That failed twice.
Well,
so
I think the lesson from that is they saw you try, they saw you fight.
Yeah.
They also see who you picked.
And that's one of the things that I've talked with my kids about is, they recognize the reality of marriage. So when I say that the marriage has failed, I'm not saying that I failed in marriage or that my wives failed in marriage. The marriage failed
Yeah.
for various reasons. And I have never been, I hope it doesn't come across this way. I have not been angry and resentful about my exes to my kids for the most part. I mean, I've talked about some of the things that happened, so that the reality of it, the lesson of it, right? But not like, oh, your mom's a horrible person, blah, 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 blah. I've specifically tried to avoid that. I'm sure it's slipped out.
Which we talked about.
Yeah, I'm sure it has slipped out at times. That's what she said. But, sorry. And for those times that it does come out that way.
I said putting your kids first after the divorce.
No, I said it slipped out.
Oh, okay. I was like, how does that even work with that phrase?
Right. No, that was my phrase. But and so it's, and I don't want to come across that way, because I don't want them to create that expectation that when a marriage fails, a relationship fails, that bitterness and anger is the rule of the day. You rise above it. When it comes to love, my anticipation is that there are probably some wonderful, wonderful people out there. I know that it's possible. I know I could probably find that. And I'm not closed off to that idea. I lack the confidence anymore that there are very many people out there who, man, this is going to sound bad.
Just say it. It's okay.
I don't trust that there are very many women who can handle the kind of relationship that I want and need, in the partnership, in the affection, in the trust, in all of the different areas of what I actually want, what I need, what I want to create. There are lots of women, I think, that give it lip service, but when it comes down to the work that it takes to create that, I don't know in our society if there's enough patience and work ethic to create that kind of life. I would love to be proven wrong.
Me too.
But as far as expectation goes,
I'm like, what do you? I'm like, is this an episode? What does James's wife look like? What does she do? Does she
I
look?
think it's less the way she looks. Like, looks are important, but it's less about the way she looks, more important about the way she communicates.
I'm very
more
eclectic
important.
as far as like my taste in women
We're all
goes.
tens with the lights off. I mean, turn the lights off. Boom,
No,
you're 10.
but I expect somebody who, when they say that they're on board with an idea, when we talk through ideas, when we talk about goals, they actually work on it. And if we slip, which we will, because none of us are perfect. If I slip, if they slip, we're patient with each other, we forgive each other, and we keep moving forward.
Well, and I think, when we talk about marriages then and now and how to survive them with our guest, I think we're going to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to hear that exact thing. I mean, all my patients that are like, "Oh, we've been married 60 years. We've been married this. We've been that."
Yeah. My
I'm
parents.
Like, what was your one thing? I mean, a lot of them said we laughed together. It was us. And it's so funny because I've said this before, where a lot of people think it's you versus your spouse versus the world, and really it should be you guys against the world. So when I talk about that social little bubble in your home,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating that environment. That's your environment that, as a man, we protect. And that protection looks like security, but not just you're keeping those kids safe. You're keeping them loved. You're keeping them educated and fed, and you're having joy. And I think that's the expectation that I had as a kid, that I would have that. Like,
Yeah.
I just, my expectations were so out of whack because I didn't have an example of a good marriage,
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I did have, I mean, I adored him, but that went to shit down the road after all the kids were gone. But it's just where I love how you said the marriage failed, because I used to blame her. It's like, oh, you did this.
That's normal.
So
Yeah.
I did this, da 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 da.
Or we blame ourselves for stuff.
It's like, I should
whatever.
have done that. Maybe if I did this more, she would have loved me more. But really, as you grow up and
Hopefully.
you actually reflect, and that's what,
Hopefully.
in divorce, you said, okay, you can tell me all the crap that person did. What did you do?
Right.
And
Right.
90% of the people were like, oh, I didn't do anything.
Well,
But you did.
yeah, there's nothing happens in a vacuum, and there is no one-sided anything.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not necessarily. And Kira did mention that when I said we never should have been together, we just weren't right. She said it hurt her because she felt like I wouldn't exist if. And I told her, I go, it's probably blind thinking, but Kira, you just would have looked different.
Well, I'll tell you what I.
you would have still
I've told
been
my
more.
kids.
You just would have looked different, and I would have loved you the same.
Yeah, I've said, I've talked about like the mistake of marrying their mom potentially, and all the stuff that we went through, and wishing that I didn't have to go through all those things. But I tell my kids I would go through every single thing again if it meant that I had my kids.
Yeah.
Because they are incredible. They bring so much joy to my life. Just because their mom and I failed in marriage does not mean that I regret them. I regret lots of things. I don't regret them. I regret lots of things with them, mistakes I've made as a dad.
Yeah.
I don't regret them.
But isn't that part of personal growth, is learning not to have that regret, and they're learning not to look back and wishing it didn't happen? But
regret is different.
Yeah.
Is it different?
Yeah. So regret is not like regret in the sense that, I made a mistake and all of this was wrong. Regret as in, I wish that I knew then what I know now. I wish things had gone differently.
Yeah.
But
I wish I'd made different decisions.
Had it been different?
I don't know that their mom and I would still be married, but I don't regret where I am now. And that's one of the traps of history, right?
Yeah.
Is history is in hindsight, we learn a whole lot in hindsight, but we can't change anything in the past. And so the regrets are not, I made so many mistakes and my life would be so much better now. No, it could be worse, right?
Yeah.
It's just the recognition of, I recognize the mistakes, I recognize problems, I recognize things that could have been done differently to educate what I do moving forward. And so like with the kids now, I'm very proud of my son for a decision that he made. It was a hard decision that he made. So he had always wanted he always wanted to join the Army. I was in the Army, he looked up to me, and now he looks down to me because he's taller than me. But he always wanted to join the Army. And so he had tried a couple times. There were some reasons why he couldn't. And then finally he got approved to join the military. But his fiance was pregnant, and I think she was pregnant. I don't think she had my granddaughter yet. But she was like, I don't know if I can wait for you because, the basic training and AIT and all this other stuff, it's a long time to be alone, right? And especially as a young mom with a new infant, it's a lot. And so he talked to me about it, and we talked through it in different perspectives and things like that. And I basically said, you have to make your decision. I'm not telling, I don't try and tell my kids what to do. Hopefully it doesn't come across that way. He decided not to join the military and instead prioritize her and his new budding family. Big shift in direction of his life. He's now a firefighter, does really well, makes good money. He's got a little boy now too. And what my hope is, I'm really proud of him prioritizing his family, whatever the decisions are. But he made a decision that was more important than this dream of joining the military.
Yeah.
What I hope is that decision, that sacrifice, that choice is recognized and valued by both of them.
Yeah. That
it's a focus on each other. It's a focus on the relationship and the family and the building of that relationship. And that kind of perspective, I think, can apply in so many different areas of life, whether you're buying a new car, whether you're changing jobs, whether you're building a house, whether you're moving to another city, whatever it is. If that's the focus, what do we do as a family? How is this going to affect us? Then I think that can be a very, very successful relationship because it's not selfish.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the funny thing you talk about going in the past and stuff. I think who I am now and what I've learned now, and honestly, you both, it's like it's weird because I've always been very forgiving in general with people because
almost to a fault.
Yeah. And it's not worth having hate in your heart, know. God, it just can bring you down so bad. And so there's times I used to be frustrated and all this stuff, and I think the only thing that with the divorce, and I was like, okay, manage my expectations. We say we're gonna do what you wanted to do. Keep the homes very similar. We talked about that where. If there's too much disparity, then the kids don't want to go to the other one because it's like, well, I get all this here. I don't get that over here. I really don't want to go because kids are generally just selfish. That's just how
not selfish in a negative way. They're just not thinking beyond the self.
Their world is that little
that is their
bubble
world
we make. So I don't regret any of mine either. I love my kids. I wouldn't trade them for the world. I mean, I'm so proud of them as well. And I just wish I got more teenager time, kind of thing. Cause that's the one thing is like, I feel like I got through the hard part raising them when they're younger, but I had so much fucking fun doing it. I mean, it was, I loved it and I wouldn't change it for the world. The only thing I would change is to be more like I am now back then.
Yeah.
Because
holy cow, that's a regret and not a negative regret, but a positive regret where it's like, I wish I knew now, or I wish I knew then what I know now. I would have been such a better dad.
But is better that dad, the definition of regret is understanding that progressive growth of changing the future based upon the decisions of the past?
That's one side.
Yeah.
That's the positive side.
Yeah.
The negative side is you dwell in it, you focus on it, and you let it stifle you to the point
future growth.
Right.
Yeah, you don't grow at all. You don't learn from it. And the thing is the man I am today, I had to go through all that. I had to go through this suffering. And the sad thing is I didn't manage my expectations almost at every fucking level. And that's what sucks is I kept trying to make up for the failed first part. And then the second part, and the third part.
Yeah.
And so when my marriage failed, and it's like, hey, this is not a great example of love. This is not a great example of family. I don't want my kids to think this is normal. And, there is
Sadly, it is normal.
There's a lot of truth out there that it's sometimes worse staying in a bad marriage because you teach your kids to hate marriage. You teach them to not be unified.
Yeah.
I watched her mom, my ex's mom, go behind their dad's back at every fucking turn. Well, don't tell him. Don't do this. We'll just do that. Don't worry about him knowing. That wasn't a family unit back then. So of course she didn't know how to be a family unit because she didn't see an example of one either.
Right.
And I didn't either. And so we're going to fail because we didn't have any good examples of a fucking family, but we had great examples of a loving parent. Her mom was an amazing mom that when her dad died out of the blue, she had to quit the military. I think she's a weather woman. She had to quit to raise the kids, and luckily she got the money from, him dying and lawsuit and all that stuff. So she could just focus on being a mom and heal from that. But the weird thing is I saw her close up a lot too, And so my main goal was don't close up, still be open, still be available, teach them that if a marriage fails, that doesn't mean your life failed. It's just it didn't work with that person, and I still want to do it, instill those family values into them and that partnership and that, I don't want to say loyalty, but really the loyalty to the unit. You brought up, it's literally, you just said it in a different way. It's the unit against the world. And it's you, your wife, and your kids against the world, and not in a bad way. It's to better your lives together. And so,
yeah. One of the things that I realized within a couple of years of being a single dad, that unit against the world kind of concept, I was letting the world dictate a lot.
Yeah, and I did too. I mean,
one of the things that happened, and my kids, I don't think my kids realize this. The second Christmas after the divorce, after I got custody of the kids, all that kind of stuff, the second Christmas, their mom did not come visit. So all visitation was here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
She didn't come for whatever reasons. Doesn't matter. I felt bad for them, for my kids. And so I tried to make up for the lack that she created. I spent twice as much on Christmas than what I was planning on in the year before. I also, and her parents probably don't care, I arranged with her parents to come and spend time with them before Christmas, because otherwise the kids wouldn't go to visit them, because they would have gone with her to go visit them. And so I arranged that with them so they could spend some time with the kids at Christmas. While they were there with my kids, they treated me like shit.
Yeah.
They were
even though you went out of your way for them.
I went out of my way, and it's the way I felt, but it's like they basically disregarded me in my own home, barely even acknowledged that I was there, didn't say thank you. It was like this expectation where it's like, oh, well, of course we, whatever. It's like, I sacrificed so that you could, right? Yeah. And so what that taught me was that it is the family unit against the world, and that distraction of I have to make up for somebody else's inadequacy is not what I need to be focusing on. I just need to focus on my relationship with my kids and creating a life for them so that they know that they're loved, they know they're safe, they have what they need, that kind of stuff. And then as they become adults, support them in that process as they learn to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the second part of my failed expectation is, I met somebody, and that somebody wanted to prove that she was marriage material,
mm-hmm.
and basically used me to help prove to this other guy that she was able to be in a marriage and be in a family.
So fucked up.
I think that's the one I'm still
angry about.
I'm not necessarily angry,
resentful, bitter,
definitely bitter,
perturbed,
definitely bitter, not perturbed. I'm a turd. But I think I learned even more, because my stepmom, she's horrible. I mean, the shit they would do. I mean, her whole goal was to drive us away,
mm-hmm.
and it worked.
Yeah,
it worked so much so. And then my dad just teed it off, and so I'm like, okay, if I'm going to combine a home, I do not want my kids to go through what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've talked about this a little bit. And so my whole goal was, and it was great. It's like we had common goals. We traveled together. We did, travel nursing.
It seemed like that, though, at least, right?
I'm thinking that, cool, we're working, we have the same stuff. But then there were never any compromises.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, my kids are, 25 miles away from where you live. I'm trying to be close to them. But I also can't afford Johnson County anymore, South Johnson County, because it's, fucking $3,000 for a 2-bedroom. It's like, I can't afford that.
It's an expensive area of Kansas City, yeah.
So I'm having to move farther out, more rural, like redneck area to be able to afford.
That's the dream.
To live.
Man, I want some land. Anyway.
So ultimately, I'm like, we should buy a house halfway. You want your kids to still go to this school district. Your parents are out here. They help out a lot, which actually they pretty much raised your kids.
Mm-hmm.
But there's never, that's where I'd have those red flags of she's not really wanting to be a family unit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, maybe I'm just being too stubborn. Maybe I'm doing this. Maybe I'm doing that. And I'm like, I don't want to.
That's where gaslighting comes in, right?
Yeah, it does. And it's like, I don't want to fail at this again.
Yeah.
I don't want to have another failed marriage. And, we weren't married. But
a failed relationship, yeah.
And so, when we were looking at houses and we found one and we built it and it honestly, that was my favorite house. It was like, it's weird because it's like the first example of the first relationship I had where we kind of had common goals and kind of were working together, but not really. It's like we were, but then she had her selfish agenda. It was always her kids first, her this, her that. Yeah. And so inadvertently I still did that. And so to my kids, and my relationship with my kids started falling apart because I was trying to make a family unit. I was trying to make that thing. In my heart, I was busting my ass. I was trying so hard, and I loved spending time with them. I'd twist and move and stuff. And so when that failed, I'm grateful for it not going forward because I think it would have ended up way worse.
You would have been miserable longer.
But I mean, how many times did I would call you at night in tears and in hurt and in pain?
Yep.
And
how many times did I tell you to kick her to the curb?
But when I reflect back, it wasn't her that I was hurt, and it was
you.
My expectations again as a family, were crumbling again, and it's like, fuck, what am I doing wrong? And so it just really, really was hard, and then I went down the bad side of regret and just spiraled.
Yeah.
And then kind of lost my kids even more. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this house. It's way too expensive. It's falling apart, but I have to have a house because I promised them that. And that's one thing I'm so fucking proud of is I've never broke my promise. Like Kira had her own room from the day I said, as soon as you get your own room, you'll have your own room.
Yeah.
Until she moved out. Got to the point where she only came 4 times a year, but so I'm like, well, you don't need a room now. You got your mom's room and you're grown up. So it's like, I had to learn to not have expectations when it comes to the family, to run with it. And so now my only expectation is to basically do what you talked about, is to build that unit with Sydney and to build that family and just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, just embrace what is and move forward with the reality of what is. I think one of the traps of having these unrealistic expectations, as well-intentioned as they are, is that we start comparing everything that we do to these expectations that we have. And then, comparison is the thief of joy. So whenever anything doesn't meet an expectation, we think we're failing. And then we try and make up for it. And we end up creating this self-fulfilling prophecy of failure because we're trying so hard not to be a failure that we stop focusing on recognizing what really is right in front of us. And we were talking about this last night. Yeah. Where we don't recognize what's in front of us and love the variety and the beauty of what is, right? And so, like with my kids, one of the things that I will not do is I will not create an expectation that they come see me. Yeah. I want them to come see me. I mean, my daughter and son-in-law and my grandson are here. Thankfully they're not making much noise, but they're here. They surprised me a couple of weeks ago. Like, hey, we'd like to come and visit. I'm like, absolutely, but I've gone to visit them, not because I feel like I have to, but because I want them to know that I want that relationship with them, that it's an important thing to me. And so if that means that I sacrifice and drive the 10 hours or pay for the $300 flight, okay, then that's what I'll do. Yeah. They're my children. instead of this expectation that my kids will want to come and see me, or they're all come here at Christmas. I've told them all. I said, if you guys want to do Christmas with your mom, go do Christmas with your mom. I love you. I'd love to have you here at Christmas time if that's what you decide to do. But if you don't, okay, it's all right. I don't want to hold on to these expectations and then create this animosity or this hurt or this sadness or this whatever because the expectation wasn't realistic and I forgot to pay attention to what's right in front of me.
Yeah, and I think that's one hard lesson that, man, I try to teach Kira is I really just try to teach them there's consequences and there's people get hurt, So if you tell me you're coming over and I plan for that and I go buy food and all this stuff, and then last minute you're like, oh, I'm not coming over, I'm going to be hurt.
Sure.
But I'm not going to be mad at you. Life goes forward. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to resent you.
But you teach that with the way that you react to it.
And I think the one thing that was hard is, trying to manage, like you said, like get them to come. Like, okay, we have a parenting agreement. You have to come. It's like, do we actually hold them to it if they don't want to? And so I always try to get it to where, like, hey, I'm not going to force you to come. Obviously, I want you to. I plan stuff when you're here. I make you the priority. But if, I know Erickson's hierarchy, need and like all the different levels. I know as a teenager, your friends come first, sure. That's they're the world. And so I don't ever get mad, but I come across probably a little mad, but I really just try to get them to understand what I expect is, and you're going to go forward because the world expects that. If you say you're going to do something, commit to it, but it's okay to back out, but know that you should feel bad.
Why?
Well, no, it's like you should feel
bad. No. I'm gonna call you on that one. I'm gonna call you on that one.
It's okay to feel bad.
Who are you to them?
Well,
No.
I think I just said
Who
it
are
wrong.
you to them?
I said it wrong.
Who are you to them?
They're dead.
You are the stable, loving, strong force in their life that they can always rely on to love them, accept them, be there for them, hold them accountable.
Yeah.
But if they feel bad, it's because they feel bad, not because you are telling them they need to feel bad.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant
okay.
It's okay if they feel bad by canceling. Like Kira gets so worked up and so scared to tell me.
Yeah.
And then so her mom wouldn't do it. And I'm like, no, I want Kira to tell me. I want her to learn that she needs to take responsibility for this. And it's okay if I get hurt. And it's okay if she feels bad. It's okay. I'm glad. The fact that you do feel bad, that shows you're human and that you love me. Mm-hmm. If you didn't give a shit and you didn't feel bad, then I would know you didn't love me. And so it was so hard to like teach her accountability, but also tell her it's okay. And that's the one thing that drove me nuts with the parenting is my ex would try to step in and protect them, and then she'd make me seem like I was the bad guy. And I would make her feel horrible. And I'm like,
it just creates
I don't
more
berate my kid. Yeah. I don't make her feel bad. She chooses to feel bad, but I will tell them that I'm disappointed. I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. If I'm on a tight budget and you're coming for the weekend and I go spend $400 on food and you don't come, a lot of that food's going to go to waste because I'm not going to eat it because I buy stuff specifically for you guys to eat. And
maybe that's a shift that you need to make is, you buy extra food, but it's food that you wouldn't mind eating anyway.
But I don't. And that's the thing I've learned in 2 years is to manage my expectation of my kids and to just be the foundation, be there when they need me, try to live within my means, not to go outside of my means to give them things.
Yeah.
Because that's burned me.
Yep.
7 fucking years. So I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. That's part of the reason I haven't got a bunch of credit cards because I don't want to have credit card debt. I have 2. And I'm like, and so all I try to teach them now is I just want time with you whenever you have it.
Yeah.
And if I can do it too, I will.
Yeah.
And that's the only expectation I have of my kids is to love me till the day I die.
I don't have the expectation. I have the hope.
The hope, yeah. But it's like, I hope, yeah.
Because then that hope creates the expectation of me fostering that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Instead of demanding it or expecting it or whatever. And there are a lot of people out there that they expect it because of who they are rather than, the desire or the being able to create an environment where the kids do actually want to be around you. And so like with my kids, they're spread out, and so we don't see each other. Most of us don't see each other very often, and it's okay. And it's like when I see them, when they call, it's wonderful. It's wonderful every time.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. I love spending time with them. I love talking to them. I love hearing from them when we're able to. That expectation of me putting in the effort without expecting an outcome and allowing them the space to respond the way that they choose.
Yeah. And I really did shift a lot of my, like, I don't expect anything anymore.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad because it's like, if you don't expect anything, you have these expectations and you can't get disappointed. It's like, no, that's not what I mean.
But you can have gratitude and hope, like James was saying.
Well, yeah, and I expect to foster I expect to be the kind of dad that is grateful for.
Yeah.
Rather than disappointed in.
And that's kind of my whole shift in the paradigm is like, okay, I bought this house hoping that they would come more.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So it's like, well, now I wish I didn't buy the house. But I don't blame them or I'm not mad at them or anything like that. Like, I'm grateful for buying the house because I've learned a lot from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much. And so that's what life's about. Yeah. Life's about taking what we go through, growing from them, not being the victim. Everyone has had bad shit in their life happen to them.
Yep.
I mean, I've had so much bad shit in my life that when I tell people a lot of it, they think I'm fucking lying. And my mom's like, no, that happened. That happened. I mean, I don't know how I'm alive, honestly, but I was on the show. But my whole goal was basically to provide for them in a way that they could depend on me. And so when I look back I just want to be the dad I never had. Mm-hmm. I can say I was. I was way more.
I think that is a great goal.
I mean, the joke I used to have is like, oh, I just want to be a better dad than I had. So I just really have to tell my kids hi twice a year.
That's so sad.
That's beating him. But,
But again, that's comparing, right?
But my kid
the
knows,
thief of joy.
They both know that if their mom lost everything today, that home would be open to them to come live there and
whatever home.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
apartment, trailer, house, mansion, doesn't matter. And that's the thing with the fostering of the relationship is, I think a really good focus is because we only have kids for 18 years, roughly.
Your whole life.
We're only really directly responsible for them for 18 years. But, we get them for the first 18, 20 years of their life. And then the next 50, 60 years before we die, they're living their own lives. They're growing in their own ways. How am I creating a relationship where they want to spend time with me? They want to call me. They want my counsel. They want my support. They want whatever. How do I create that as a dad? To me, that is, I think, a greater goal than money, cars, whatever,
or a home or any of it, because it's that relationship and love and hope and that they build with you. You represent to them value in who you are and what you bring to them, in that love and in that hope and what you've taught them. And so it's not about the home or the physical presence or the money or the gifts or anything.
Those are just fluff. That's just extra.
Yeah, and what's funny is really the only expectation I ever put on my family was game night.
Yeah.
Like family night. Nope, we're going to do one night. Completely interrupted.
Absolutely. But that's creating a family value.
But what's awesome is that has now been the most positive thing in their lives. Like, and we just 2 weeks ago, Sid reached out and she's like, hey guys, do you want to do a game night? And both kids are like, hell yeah. It's like, can Chase come? Chase loves game night.
That's a huge success, right?
And so, and they know it means a lot to me but
it means a lot to them apparently too.
Yeah. It's time. And it's like, and it's so funny because I really used to not like games at all. I like, let's just I think when I was younger, I'd cheat just to get it over faster because I didn't want to
horrible.
win. I just wanted to be done playing, kind of thing. Well, now it's just I love seeing their personalities, the games we play. It's all, what they think and they put in their stuff. Quinn, watching Quinn develop and grow. Like originally, he was just always saying dirty stuff, but now he's like
just
really,
like his dad,
really intellectual. And so it's harder to get, figure out who did what and where, and it's just so much fun, and really just I'm just happy to move forward with Sydney and develop that family with her, and
I think if we it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. As we learn more, we realize that there's so much more out there that if we let go of expectations and just focus on fostering the environment and focusing on what is. Instead of what we don't have or what we think we're supposed to have, all that stuff, we're going to be a whole lot happier.
Yeah, I think making your bubble the safe place and making it how you want it, doing it slowly, not trying to compete with anybody. I wanted the home to be shit if my neighbor has a Ferrari.
Yeah,
I wanted my
home. I wanted my home to be a refuge.
Yeah,
to be a safe place for them to come to, away from all the other pressures in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's out of my whole life, people think home is a building. It's your family. It's who you're with. It's your partner. And for the first time in my life, I always can't wait to get home.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Jerk.
Instead of dreading it.
Such a jerk.
Sometimes your family too is not blood.
No, it's because he found a great girl.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
All right.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks for joining us. This has been a really personal topic to us, but we hope that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and just don't have expectations.
Yeah. But please subscribe, comment, let us know what you think.
All right, guys. We're out. Stay classy, Kansas City. Good job, James.
Thanks, Dawson. You too.
Did great. You know what?
So good.
Thanks for joining us and giving us your time. That's very precious. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ding that little bell so you get notifications when we have new drops every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
And check out our dad jokes.
Yep. Make sure you comment. Let us know how we're doing.
Appreciate it.